Hello sports fans and compulsive social media scrollers, I'm Nik Rabinowitz. Welcome back to episode 2 of Banter with the Boys. It's been an action-packed few sporting days since we last met. Let's take a look at the week's highlights. Firstly, Liverpool fans are heartbroken as their beloved manager Jurgen Klopp, the man who brought glory back to the club, announced he'll be retiring and abandoning the team at the end of the season. The Reds' emotional father figure allegedly couldn't bear to tell the players the truth, so he just told them, "Daddy's just going out for milk and a pack of smokes." In tennis news, despite Yannick Sinner's surname, he's been a very good boy at the Australian Open, beating Russian Daniil Medvedev to claim his first Grand Slam. Runner-up Medvedev set a record for the most time spent on court in an ATP Open with 24 hours and 17 minutes. The overall record is still held by a South African. No one has spent more time in court without a victory than advocate Dali Mpofu. In cricket news on Sunday morning, the West Indies extended the life expectancy of Test cricket by beating the Aussies in Australia for the first time since 1997. West Indian captain Craig Brathwaite dedicated the victory to Australian Rodney Hogg, who called the Windies hopeless and pathetic. No one outside of Australia is exactly sure who Rodney Hogg is, but everyone pretty much agrees it sounds like David Warner. And finally, Bafana have made it into the AFCON round of 16, set to take on tournament favourites Morocco this week. Many have written them off, but we all know you can never write a South African team off, especially when they're playing away, because the longer they stay in the tournament, the more load shedding they get to avoid. As a nation, Bafana, we just want you to know we're so proud of you. And what's important is that you just have fun, and we love you no matter what happens. We're back at the historic Foresters Arms here in Newlands, Cape Town, with my illustrious co-host to my left, SA Cricket's very own $1 million man, legendary bowling all-rounder and paragon of fitness. Looks like he's stolen one of Dale Stein's skateboarding shirts. It's Chris Moneybags Morris. Woo! And to my right, one of the Cape Wineland's greatest exports. No, it's not the 2021 Paul Heights Shiraz. It's Sean de Villiers.
Yes. Mon.
Thank you, Nick.
And as always, we're joined by a sporting great, a legend of the game, arguably the most inelegant, least graceful, and most effective opening batsman to have played for his country. Also the most capped, most successful Test cricket captain in the history of the game. Put your hands together for the SA20 commissioner, the Buffalo Goat of Test skippers, the Buffelbok, Graeme Smith.
Oh, the commish.
Hello, guys. Commish. I haven't been nervous for an interview for a while, but I'm nervous today.
No, you should be.
Why are you nervous, commish?
Oh, this is, I don't feel like my wit can match the three of you. Eh?
No, you can.
You'll be all right.
Mr. Commish, it's a great honour for us to have you here today.
Commish, what a privilege.
Have you been happy with the SA20?
Yeah, it's actually been amazing. I mean, so much work went in, and then first game was rained out, so it was a tough start. But then from there, it's, I think the cricket has been incredible. I think there's been some great team performances, but some outstanding individual performances. We saw Pietersen last night again. But crowds, just the way people are flocking into stadiums and the feedback of how much fun they're having and loving the tournament has been, I guess, always the best part for us.
It's great to see domestic players shining, but as a result, we've sent our 5th team to New Zealand. How do you feel?
Yeah. And do you think Jacques Kallis is upset he wasn't picked? Listen, I'm amazed he's still playing. I mean, geez, I said to him the other day, what are you doing? But yeah, it's frustrating. It's not an easy topic for me to talk about, but knowing
that's why we're creating a safe space.
Yeah.
It's like
safe space.
knowing
Talk about it.
Knowing a bit of the behind the scenes, it's obviously frustrating. For 4 weeks every year, SA20's window is protected. We have to have the best players available. Scheduling is something that we have to get right, because we can't have this happening again.
Just from a cost point of view, don't you think it would have been more effective to pick South Africans that have already emigrated to New Zealand and then flights, accommodation sorted?
It would save jet lag as well, though.
As a huge Liverpool fan, just to take it away from cricket for a moment, were you as gutted when you heard the Klopp? Were you as gutted as when Klopp retirement was announced as when Ray Jennings announced his retirement? Or less?
Has Ray announced his retirement?
At the time, many years back.
That would be a good day, actually. Yeah, I actually didn't believe it because I was running around. I think I was in some airport and someone posted it on one of the WhatsApp groups. I thought someone was pulling the piss out of me. But yeah, I mean, look, he's been incredible at the club. Like to have someone like that, not only has provided so much success, but he's just his energy. You know, it's hard to replace a person like that. So it's going to be very, very difficult to see how Liverpool replace Jurgen Klopp and get the best out of what he's created there.
We were just discussing this off camera. What's happened with the Windies in Australia. Shamar Joseph, this incredible performance on the weekend, bowling with what was suspected as a fractured toe, actually retired hurt the night before, in tears, walked off the field, comes back 7 for 68 with the test match.
It's so good. I mean, you know, you've asked a question about test cricket. I mean, I love test cricket, but it's never going to be a 10, 20, 30, 40 nation format. It's got to be a 6. It's only going to be a 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And the West Indies are already, you know, on the fringes of whether it's going to work for them going forward. And to see a youngster come through like that and that young team go and win for the first time in over 20 years in Australia, and that performance is so unbelievable for the format and to keep the West Indies, you know, engaged, their fans engaged. It was brilliant to watch. I actually watched the last bit, sat in front of the TV and watched it. It was amazing. I mean, just to watch it unfold, there was 2 great games of Test cricket happening yesterday, and it's brilliant. And those are the stories that will keep the game strong. But, you know, outside England, South Africa, I mean, England, India and Australia, it's a tough format to keep strong. From commercials, and it's those stories now that it will hopefully, you know, change the system.
I quite liked his story of Shamar Joseph. I mean, I read up, like everyone's going on about his story, and the one that sticks out to me is that he was a security guard a couple of years ago, and I can relate to that. I was once a bouncer at Dropzone in Pretoria, and for me to go from my bouncing days to go play professional cricket, it's quite a journey.
It's inspirational.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I mean,
People
if Chris comes to town, he needs anyone personal.
I've heard during the week people like compare your story with Sia Khaleesi's story as well, like, you know, where you came from and stuff.
Similar, it's like looking in a mirror, basically. I mean,
What's interesting, Chris, is if you look at his batting performance, Shamar actually, in the first test in Australia, batting number 11 got 36. And given his past work experience as a security guard, would you pick him as a night watchman?
This has been changed to a night hawk now. You can go and play with freedom.
Do you any of your other teammates' stories compare in terms of this rags to riches kind of story?
Oh, I think, you know, like you think of someone like Micaiah, you know, and him growing up where he did in the Eastern Cape, and, you know, when you just sit and chat to the guys who played under 19 with him, you know, and what they taught him. He came from a village, and I wasn't there, but, you know, the guys like Neil Mack and those that played under 19 with him, and then to see how he grew into, you know, top international talent. There's a lot of stories that guys have and where they come from, but he's probably the one that stood out for me in my career.
Let's move over to tennis for a second. You guys watch the Aussie Open finals?
I didn't know there was any other sport on.
The commish. He's getting ahead of himself.
Commish.
The Sinner came back from 2 sets down
The Sinner.
to Sinner, Jacob Sinner. Yannick Sinner, sorry. I thought he was a German dominatrix. I didn't know he played.
Jacob was also...
Jacob the dominatrix.
And who won the women's?
The grunter, Sabalenka. Jude Law actually came to watch it. It really threw her off in the quarters. He wanted to make an 8th Belarusian tennis player. Is it the beginning of the end for Djokovic?
No. Novak's gone. Novak can do what he wants. He's close to being the greatest of all time.
Do you think he could... Did you see the footage of him playing cricket facing up to...
It was horrible. Steve Smith.
Smashing him into the...
Didn't he hit a freshie first, though?
He did.
Yeah, he edged one. And then he smashed him into the... There is a Serbian cricket team, is there?
No, but he hit him with his tennis racket.
No,
Yeah,
his bat as
he
well.
used the bat as well.
Bat as well.
I mean, he missed it with a bat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he hit him into the crowd with a tennis racket.
Yeah.
That's
On the
correct.
floor.
And then said,
Yeah.
don't bowl there. Don't you watch TV, Steve? A Serbian cricket team. I don't know. There's an Icelandic
No, there
cricket
is.
team
There's
that
a
are
Serbian.
very abusive on Twitter. It's quite...
Yeah.
They celebrated Henry Claessen's retirement from Test cricket. Congratulations on your mighty 4 Test career. Icelandic cricket.
Jeepers.
Very good.
You know, they have an app in Iceland. If you go to a bar and meet somebody, there's an app that you can quickly work out if you're related to them. It's time now for the long tail. In the long tail, we are going to delve more deeply. We're going to do a deep dive into Graeme.
Oh.
That might have come out wrong. But just before we do dive, let's catch up with the next installment of Fans in the Stands. Woo!
How's it, guys? Welcome back to episode 2 of Fans in the Stands. We're gonna go cause some chaos. Let's go find some people. You walk into a bar, see 2 beautiful girls. One's blonde, one's brunette. Which one are you going for?
Brunette. Always.
Brunette.
Always. Brunette.
Damn. We are back in the Fans in the Stands, but we have found a bride-to-be. So, what was your first date like with hubby?
Well, our first date was in Barcelona, so it was pretty good.
You from England?
Yes. He's from South Africa, I'm from England.
So who's hubby? Oh, there's a sweet couple. Okie dokie. So, Barcelona, it was a good first date. But if you were in South Africa cooking her South African food, what are you cooking?
Oh my god, there's a mixture of things, but it's definitely gonna be lamb shank, 100%.
That's a good option.
100%. My lamb shank's the best, I would say.
I agree with that. What do you think about lamb shank?
Oh, I do love his lamb shank.
Let's just keep it PG. Thank you. Let's keep it PG. If you were going to place a bet today, who's winning? MI or Joburg?
Definitely am I.
Definitely. That's a strong.
We have to, it's a must win.
Fair enough. But now more fun question. First date.
Yeah.
What food are you eating if you bring a girl home for a first date? What are you cooking up for her?
It's a bit tricky. Most likely, get some pizza. I think it's going to be easiest instead of me standing around and needing to cook the whole meal. Just order a meal. It's just easy.
But cooking brings an atmosphere. You can't order pizza. That's the wrong attitude for a first date. You got to show impact.
Okay, if I was to do that, I think maybe make a nice pasta. Serve some wine. So pasta and wine. Why not?
White or red wine?
White.
Good choice. Enjoy your first date with pasta. Thank you.
You got 3 in your first innings in Test cricket. I got 3 less than that. But what was memorable was we had to down a beer out of Merv Hughes' shoe. There was a hole
The shoey.
in the toe.
That's the UCT.
There was a GCT, not the real Merv Hughes. It was a different guy. Looked nothing like Merv Hughes. But you got sledged non-stop, if I remember correctly, during that game by a few different individuals.
Did you open the batting?
I batted at 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great Australian team, and they had so many experienced power guys, and that played the game like that. I remember doing an interview afterwards, and I just spoke candidly around the experience, not even thinking about it, but it got turned into like a sledging kind of big story. And our mates with like Matty Hayden, and obviously, Warnie has passed now, and so on, and many Australian cricketers. But at the time, it was a proper welcome to Test cricket. I'll never forget second innings walking out. Matty Hayden met me halfway, and then Warnie was bowling. You had Langer, short leg, Steve Ward, slip, Mark Wall, and it was just other boys let me know about the way of the world.
Well, firstly, we'll get back to the advice. I think it was Boucher gave you how to get back at McGrath. Well, I don't know if that's repeatable, but Brett Lee we can repeat. Brett Lee was very simple in the Chris Morris start of sledging. I think maybe he had a pitch collision or something like that, and he just said, "Oh, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill him."
Well, he did bowl fast enough to be able to do that. I mean, I remember that attack. I mean, Brett Lee, McGrath, Gillespie in his prime, and Shane Warne. This was like a hell of a sort of attack to make your debut against. And I think the thing for me was actually when I performed as a youngster there, you almost got so excited that that was the toughest, and you did well, and you kind of exuberant of youth. You share these experiences, but it was an interesting lesson in media.
So what is with fast bowlers like this guy?
medium pace.
I was never fast enough to tell
Medium
people I was going to
pace.
kill them. I thought,
Well, you did, though.
yeah, I told them, but it never worked.
But it's the death threat. Let's just talk about the death threat as your initial first sledge. Like, how do you escalate from I'm going to kill you? What is your second sledge? I'm going to kill you, then resuscitate you, and then kill you again. Like, where would you go?
Actually, Moshant Delanga said something that was incredible once. He said that he wanted to hit a batsman so hard in the body that he would collapse. And then when he's collapsed from a broken rib, he wants to take his rib and stab him with it.
Jeepers.
But this is a guy who's...
Oh, you got some hell of a story.
This is a guy that dug his own... But this is a guy in pre-season, instead of doing pre-season training, he dug his own pool at his house.
Okay.
So we're talking with a very Afrikaans man who bowled the speed a lot to you.
But actually, in 2012, when the Kevin Pietersen tech skates unfolded when we were touring England, the last test we played at Lords, we wanted to go number one in the world, but it had been a very tense test match. And Andrew Strauss, who generally was quite a quiet guy on the field, had found his mouth in that game and was giving... I think every batter that came back into the change room said, I can't wait to get hold of him on the field. And Vernon ran up, beat him twice, and said to him, today, I'm going to end your career. And next ball, he padded up, given out LBW, and he retired after that test match.
You were complicit in the retirement of 3 English captains. Who was your favorite? Which one delighted you the most?
Please say Vaughan.
No, actually, Vaughnie for me was the one that I was probably... Because I kind of started young. NASA, he tried to take me on, and, you know, we had played really well the first 2 tests, and he resigned after the first one that I
Didn't someone say your name wrong? Didn't someone call you Craig?
NASA.
NASA called you
NASA
Craig.
introduced me to the mascot as Greg. I was so nervous at the time, first test captaining, 22 years old. I was just like, couldn't even get my words.
What was didn't you call you, what's his name?
No, he was calling me what's his name in the press and stuff, but he introduced me as Greg, and, you know, so when he resigned, I guess at the time I was a bit, I was so young, 22, there was so much happening around. I got a double 100 in the game, and the game was a draw, so it wasn't because we beat them in that game, but obviously for him, he had reached the end. But Vaughnie kind of started at the same time as me, so we had a lot of years playing against each other. We became good mates. You know, he was probably England's most creative captain at the time. You know, that he really changed. He was probably the first stepping stone to how England started to play differently and think differently. And then, I don't know, I mean, it's different now, but I never really got on that well with Andrew Strauss. I mean, he was a proper kind of head boy, and I was more a guy that liked to get in the trenches, you know. So when he retired, and also it was quite a tense moment. But you always have respect for these guys, you know.
Yeah.
You're very young. You get the captaincy early. You've got these senior players. You're captaining your country. You're going through puberty at the same time. How?
Yes.
It's the pressure. I mean, I came across this thing your dad said, where he said, I'm worried Graeme will lose the best years of his life. Did he say something like that?
My dad actually didn't want me to take the captaincy when I was 21, 22. He tried to talk me out of it. But, you know, for me, it was like a goal. And, you know, you never know if it's going to come around again. And, you know, I kind of believed that I could. I mean, I didn't quite understand the enormity of the job at the time, being, you know, and the challenges that came with it, like especially off the field. And, you know, you think about just captaining on the field. And that's all I thought about. And actually what was unbelievable was the support I got from the senior players at the time. It was almost like they were kind of ready for the change and wanted to be a part of it, you know. But off the field was tough, you know, learning the hard way. So there were often times where, you know, in those early years, people often think I'm arrogant, but more it was like a protective mechanism. Yeah. So wherever you go in the world, you're getting challenged. So you kind of develop this like mindset of, I'm going to show you, I'm going to take you on. You know, it's like, it's not, there's no longevity in it, but in the early years is what kind of protected me, you know, was that type of determination and mindset to kind of show you. And then, like, as you gain experience, you learn to manage, I guess, things better.
Because the playing part is the easy part. That's what you do.
Yeah.
That's what you've been doing all your life. That's why you became a pro-tier player,
Yeah.
made captain. But it's the off-the-field stuff that really drains you and stuff that you might not be that accustomed to. And
as
used
much
to
as
do.
you try and stay away from it, there's always one of your mates,
Comes-
family members that will send you an article
Yeah.
that's been written about your, this like said that. So you generally hear about everything. So, you know, I think that's what separates guys who play at international level and guys who don't generally. There's a lot of talented sportsmen who probably never make, but it's that pressure. It's learning to cope with that experience, that pressure, that helps you stay there. And a big part of it is learning to deal with failure as well. Like,
Yeah.
you know, as a batter, you fail more than you succeed. I mean, like Sachin, if you take his record, he scored 1 in 3, 1 in 4, you know? So you learning to deal with that is a big part of kind of handling yourself.
But I think for I can still remember, we both had knee injuries. Can you remember? And we did a bit of rehab together. And we were like 19 years old.
Yeah.
I had a couple after that as well. But then I made my Springbok debut at the age of 21. He makes his debut at the age of 21 from the Proteas. Then he goes captain, and I'm like, I'm still a lightie. You know, this oak is now captain of South Africa, having to take on all of that. And I think that's been the lesson throughout, certainly throughout your career, the way that you approach that, and you can understand from a father point of view. He wanted to protect you because he knows what it's like being a 22-year-old, and now all of this is thrown onto you. But the way that you got through it was, you know, that's why you're the commish.
Yeah. Years of trading.
Yeah.
As a captain, I've got to go. So what were you more proud of? Were you more proud of that first win in Australia? More proud of doing it again in Australia, or becoming world number one? Because obviously all of that did lead to becoming world number one. But which moment did you feel was a bigger moment? Becoming test team number one, or that first win in Australia that we'd never done before?
Look, I think for me, it was a period. So it was also building that team. You know, it like culminated in maybe my own personal growth as well. So like there was a period after I said I had to like, okay, I'd been captain. I was 26. I'd been captain for 4 years. I needed to actually, you know, make a more. So figuring myself out at that stage, and then you know, the likes of Dale Steyn starts to come in, Morne Morkel, Hashim Amla, AB. You start building that team environment. And I think from there I don't think we lost away from home for like 6-7 years in that period.
Yeah.
And we went to England and we won in England. That was massive in 2008 for us, and that was kind of okay. We've broken down that barrier, and then it was Australia, and I think that tour to Australia was more just how those games ebbed and flowed. And having been obliterated in Australia before, and I was a part of one tour, it was just like, so I remember sitting in the team bus after Melbourne and seeing callous tears, because he had been on so many tours to Australia. It's always so tough, the crowds, the media, and now we'd broken that like barrier down. And so, those moments were massive. We had a hell of a celebration in that MCG change room. We tried to go out. Dancers had to walk about around the casino for about 2 hours. But it was a moment we'll never forget.
But which one was which one to you? Was it
I think the first moments are massive. I think to go back then up, because Springboks have done now with this back-to-back World Cup, it's flipping hard.
Yeah.
But they're always different moments. So it's 4 years later. So to have kept that team together, performing at that level 4 years later is also but they all winning those 2 series in England and Australia were like the highlights of my career.
Cool.
Disappointed never got a World Cup. We should have won T20 World Cup in 2009 in England. We lost to Pakistan in the semi-final. That was the one that, for me, I really believe we were the best team by a country mile. We should have won that one, but hopefully it's around the corner.
And an IPL winner.
Yeah.
First year.
With the Royals.
With the Royals.
With the Royals, guys.
Rajasthan, they're still playing in Blues.
No, I'm just saying it's with the Royals. Who knows what's happening in the Betway SA20 2024.
Outside that first experience of IPL, it was mesmerizing. I remember the final, trying to get out of our team hotel. Bus couldn't even get out of the hotel.
Chaos.
But Warnie was our captain, and I'll never forget his team talks. Warnie, he liked to smoke. A lot of young young guys in the team, and he would always have his smoke in his hand when he was giving his team talk. You could just see the smoke coming out the back. But I mean, that was like the wonderful thing. It was our first experience of playing in a tournament also where you were exposed to all these other nations, and instead of playing against them and there was like this tension all the time, you suddenly got to spend quality time with them. And that was just, it was like broke down barriers like you can't believe.
We're going to be back in a moment with more great stories from sporting greats Graeme Smith, but in the interim, let's have some more fans in the stands.
Right, guys, we find some beautiful men in a tutu. Never goes wrong with that. Firstly, who are we supporting today?
MI Cape Town. Joburg.
Oh, bit of a toss-up going on here. Right, bit of a fun question. You walk into a bar, there's a blonde and a brunette best friend. Who's taking which one?
Couldn't say.
I found these two beautiful ladies here at the cricket. Guys, what do you think about a first date at the cricket?
First date at the cricket. I think that depends on the context, but especially if you don't know anything about cricket, that could be pretty romantic, I think.
Romantic?
Yes.
Cricket romantic?
Yeah. Pretend to be dumb, and then the person explains everything, and that's how you gain the man.
That's definitely one way to look at it. But now we're in Cape Town, it's a beautiful country, a British city. Would you want to go to the winelands for a first date?
Yes. I think I would prefer the cricket.
Jesus, that's an unpopular answer.
I think you want to go to the winelands when you know the person, when you've broken the ice, but actually cricket is just more fun. We're actually supposed to come with 3 boys and they've all ditched on us, so we're going as a date between us 2.
Oh, nothing wrong with a girls' date. Girls' date.
Yeah, we're just hoping that the ball comes to our direction. That's the most important thing.
2 million rand catch.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Are you catching or is he catching?
He's catching.
I back you. Good luck with your catching.
Cool,
thanks for the interview. Enjoy date night. That was episode 2 of Fans in the Stands. Thank you guys so much for watching. I think Joburg Super Kings is going to win. Make sure you guys get your best on Betway. Cheers.
Welcome back. The late great Shane Warne. You start off your career. He calls you the C word actually for a prolonged period of time.
Crocodile.
In your first test. Crocodile.
Yeah.
You then end up playing IPL cricket with him and discover the human being behind. Tell us a bit about that process.
Yeah, I mean, Warnie was a competitor on the field. Like the skill levels that he had were just incredible, but also the gamesmanship. He was just one of those guys that almost thrived in those gamesmanship moments, you know. And he got the best out of him. Like some guys can chirp and like they feel affected by it or it impacts them and it puts too much pressure on them. But he almost lived for that type of stuff. So in my first tour as captain, I think it was 05, Warnie was going after a lot of the batters. So I stupidly thought, let me have a go at him and try and take a bit of pressure off the other guys. But one thing I did learn is that for the next 2 months, that he's quite a relentless man. He wore me down. But in the end, we became like great mates, playing with him at the IPL. I'll never forget when I got selected and he was captain. You know, we got a call from guys inside the Royals to make sure that we were going to get on. And yeah, I ended up having some of my best times with Warnie. You know, it was a sad day when we lost him, but it was just such a great character off the field and the guy to spend time with and just chat about life. And he was one of those guys, he was quite infectious in how he made you feel. You know, once you got close with him, you really felt like Warnie was as loyal person as you could get.
Talking of adversity, of course, the iconic broken hand moment. It's the third and final test, 09, in Australia. You've won the series, 2-0 up. Final test in Sydney. You think you will play no further part in the game. You've been hit on the hand. You go off for x-rays and blood platelets and whatever.
Yeah,
run us through.
So that tour, I developed terrible tennis elbow. And I was going to require surgery at some point. So
Long tour.
Yeah. It's actually, we went straight from England. Yeah, so it had been a long tour. But so I was having cortisone injections in my elbow for that. So before every game, I'd have one and then play the game. So when I broke my hand, they the team doctor flew me to Australia to try and have this platelet injection in my elbow to try and help healing.
So where did you break the hand?
So it was in Sydney, yeah. Then I was like, so I actually missed. I was in Melbourne for like day 3 of that test because the doctors saw broken hand out the game. That flew me to Melbourne. I had this injection in my elbow. Came back. I wasn't gonna. Obviously, I needed timeouts. It broken right through my knuckle, yeah. So I wasn't gonna play. I was flying home at the end of the test, and I didn't even actually take whites to the ground on that day's play. I went just in my warm-up gear. I was going to go to the airport later that evening and fly back. And it'd been like a hell of a tour because the first time we had won, we'd just won in Melbourne. And
So you were there to lift the trophy?
I was there to celebrate with the boys, and then I was going to fly home. Listen, winning in Australia for the first time, it was like, for us, we were going to make the most of that. And I just kind of watched the day unfold, and the guys were fighting it out. After we were in a terrible position, and then Mackay and Dale ended up batting for like a long period of time, and then so then the thought starts. You're sitting there and you're watching, and you think,
"There's a chance.
What do I do now?"
Whose thought was it? Was it you or
it was me? So I went inside. There was Mickey Arthur, Jeremy Snape, and who was the psychologist and then the physio. So Mickey was 100%, you got to do it when I lost it. And then the physio was like, no. And then the psychologist gave me the best of both worlds, So eventually I was like, okay, I'm all in. Took the cast off. Went into I thought the only person that probably fit me clothes-wise, Callis. So I went digging in his in his bag. Took Paul Harris's test jersey. He'd obviously had a good lunch. There was a nice stain on it. And then Neil Mack helped me pad up. So he's got me padded up, boxing pads on, helmet on.
He would have been quite delicate with the box.
He was very delicate.
Really?
Yeah. And then so at the SCG, it's quite an old change room. It hasn't been redone. So it's quite a small change room. In the back in the physio room, there was a change room attendant that used to be called The Rock. And he always used to write motivational quotes in this back section of the change room. So I thought, let me go there and just try and think about, now I've committed. I need to think about how am I going to go out and face Johnson? How am I going to handle a short ball? So all these things are going through my head. I walk in there and Callis is sitting there. So he just starts laughing at me. So he starts giving me that quote about chick stick scars, glory lost, whatever. So I thought, time to get away from him. And then you're kind of there and you're thinking, and then next minute, Dale gets out and now you got to go. So walking out, and it was the only time that I think Mackay was my senior partner. So we were batting together there. First over, he nicked it, dropped by 8 and it slipped, and then we started hanging in there. My most frustrating moment that still haunts me today is that I actually got a bat on. I got a serious ball to get out, but I got a bat on one, and my instinct as a batter said no. I should have run. And then I got out like 2 balls later. So that still haunts me that I could have been on the other side. Maybe
lost it by?
We lost by 11 balls. We were 11 balls short.
That ball, I reckon, would have gotten you out anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same crack that had jumped off and broke my hand.
Serious.
But had you taken the run, would you have been facing, or would Mackay have been facing that ball?
Senior batter.
But it was just the instinct of being a batter that I wanted to protect him. And then when I realised that it was too late,
you're the left
I often still wake up at night thinking about that moment.
Paul Harris talks about when he walks out to bat. He says that obviously the whole of the MCG are standing. Or is it SCG? SCG applauding. This is heroic. You got Graeme Smith, broken hand, going out to bat. And he said there was one specific woman that was sitting close to them in the member stand. And they're like, oh, Graeme, amazing, mate, amazing. Oh, good luck, mate. Good luck. And as soon as he's crossed the line to face his first ball, he's going, come on, Mitch, f***ing kill him.
Well, that is Australia. That really is Australia. But, yeah, it was one of those moments also where you don't realise.
Yeah,
adrenaline. You don't know what it's like. You've been in Australia for 2 months. You're isolated from the world. You don't actually. And then I got on a plane and came home, and I landed in South Africa. And then suddenly, people were at the airport.
Yeah,
and I was like, it was like a moment that I realised how sport impacts people.
We're going to finish off with the quickfire, the Protea quickfire round. Best bowler you've ever faced?
Listen, I can never answer that question. You play for like 14, 15 years. You start with McGraw, Anderson,
Can I,
you know.
can I nominate one?
Yeah.
Saya Khan?
Yeah, you got me out a lot. Listen, I can't walk around India without getting reminded of it.
But also then Warren, Murali.
Yeah, I mean, also like growing up in South Africa against fast bowling, and then you go and face Muralitharan in Sri Lanka, or Anil Kumble in India, and Oaks are giggling at you around the bat, and it's bouncing and spinning, and it's first time, and you've got to then figure that out.
Yeah.
So that, like, I always found every series there was one guy that was or two guys that were going to be like a challenge. But making your debuts against like that bowling attack will always stand out.
And Sri Lankans do laugh at you, eh? They even laugh at you on the balls in the air. I only played ODI cricket, and the guy called the Jantha Mendes. Yeah. Spinner would run in and bowl, and the balls in the air.
Like it looks like a seaman.
And you're facing Muralitharan on day 4 there, and then 6 guys around the bat. And
they laugh at you.
Sangha and Mahela are giggling at you. It's a hell of an opener.
Is it easier remembering who the worst bowler in international cricket you've ever faced is? Any candidates?
Worst bowler.
I'm trying to think,
Who's
Pattinson. Yeah, it came out of nowhere. Pattinson.
Australian.
quite an arrogant guy, hey?
No.
So there was another Pattinson that got picked for England.
It's his brother.
Older
brother got picked for England.
No, man, the Australian.
Yes, his older brother got picked against England because I thought no one had seen him, and Graham's going to get out to this guy, and Graham spanked him. The commish took care of it.
AB and Ashwell got big hundreds in that game, but we...
Pattinson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the tour where Flintoff, we won in Birmingham, but Flint... Kellis couldn't see it out of the
bowled full tosses.
He was bowling low full
Mackenzie
tosses. Like so ducking into
Mackenzie was ducking.
And what about like a Shoaib Akhtar? Okay, I'm back to base bowler.
So Shoaib for me,
or Tate, or one of those super quicks.
Shoaib was super quick, terrible to face in his prime. Like, I mean, his run up was long. His turnaround and the keeper was kilometers back, and you just see his hair bouncing. And he's running in. There was nothing better than just getting that single, running past your partner and saying, "Good luck, son. I'm off strike now." Oh,
go for two. No.
I'll tell you, and because I mean, when you played him in the subcontinent as well, he bowled 2 legs, so it was either at your toe with reverse swing or it was at your head. So I remember he hit Gary in that one Test match. Neil Mack went out next, and he said there was blood all over the floor when he's taking guard, and he got a Yorker on the toe, so he was like. Bounce just coming in. Sharp was on an hat-trick, and Bounce was like in the change room. Is he going to go bouncer or Yorker? Bouncer or Yorker? It was a length ball that he nicked up. He used to cause chaos in the change.
Please not. Mac always tells a story about Shoaib, and that's Quickfire. So
there's a Quickfire. Is this called Quickfire question?
We'll get to that.
Del Begitson goes out to bat because Zulu's gotten out now. And your Max is sitting in the change room, and Zulu's going, "You're useless. You're not good enough for this game. You're not good enough." Because obviously Shoaib's running and bowled him. Yorker, stump's gone. Del Begitson's got out first ball. Stocker. But Zulu's abusing himself. You're useless. You can't even play this game. What are you even doing yet? And there was like, it says there was about 3 or 4 seconds of silence, and goes, too good for me. That too good for me.
Best teammate on the Joel.
There's quite a few of them actually. Listen, there's quite a few different groups.
There's a consistency that we've realized that there's one person that sticks out amongst everybody that has got the biggest tank and goes until the sun comes up the most consistently.
Who's that?
AB.
Yeah, AB's got some stamina. When you can get him out these days, he's got stamina. It's like Sean, he's one of those guys now that you can never get him, but if you do get him, then it's a
De Villiers thing. It's a De Villiers thing.
He's like an elusive fox.
But after the night out, this man needs to get away. If you're on at an event somewhere and you have lots of drinks,
gotta get away.
The next morning you can't find him.
Speaking of which, have you ever punched either Kepler Wessels, Hansi Cronje, or Sean Pollock in the face?
I actually never met Hansi, which was an incredible thing. I never met him. Kepler
punched you back.
No, he was a boxer, so I kind of left him alone.
Okay, right, fair enough.
And who was the third one?
Polly.
No. I ended up playing with Polly for a long. Polly's
okay.
He's one of the
Not something you
yeah,
can't
he's one of the
comment on.
nicest guys in the game.
He's asking because I punched John Smith.
Nick, there's an interesting story that I think Graeme will tell you, because Graeme used to sell chickens at a restaurant, and before the 2019
Can't have your chicken and Brian.
before the 2015 World Cup, the Proteas happened to go to Vasco's, and do you recall what happened to a certain captain of the team walking down your wonderful stairs at Vasco's?
Maybe he fell down the stairs. Before 2015.
And we fell down the stairs the night before we flew. Oh, they flew out, sorry.
I'll never forget how there was massive panic there. When he stood up and he was able to walk normally, everyone was like, oh.
Because you've had to carry a number of players.
Military training.
Events. What's been one of the messiest celebrations you've ever been part of?
4-3-8 game.
Gee, we haven't talked about the 4-3-8.
Yeah, I wanted to say, what's that bottle that with over 100 runs?
Bus driver.
So 4-3-8 game, we had a massive celebration. Mickey Arthur had to be carried out of the change room. And then we went back to the hotel. We actually ended up drinking with the Aussies in the old Sands & Sun, that old bar there. And we sat there for hours, just obviously both teams. And Bouch, who we know very well, always reaches a limit where alcohol takes over, and he loses his function of his voice and his head. So I think he realized he's got to go to bed. So we watched him walk out of the bar, and he got in the lift of the Sands & Sun, which is glass windows, and he went to hit the button, fell over, and we left him in the lift for 45 minutes going up and down. Until Brett Lee decided, no, guys, we can't do this to him. And he went and fetched him and took him to bed.
Best opposition team you've ever played against?
That great Australian team in the early years, I'd never play. I don't think I ever played against a team that was as well, like had every base covered. You literally, and what I learned from them is often in a test match of 5 days, 4 or 5 days, you could compete with them to a certain level. They always had more in the tank than you. They always had someone that, performed at the right time. I mean, you'd have to fight through Hayden, Langer, Steve Waugh, the guys, and then Gilchrist would walk in at 7.
Bevan.
And, yeah, Gilchrist was come in, your bowlers are worn down, and then he would smash you to all parts, So, and that was something, we were like a great team, learning to kind of make sure that we always had more in the tank, And I learned that from them. They were unbelievable.
Best captain you've played against or with?
Lots, obviously, but I played against Ricky Ponting a lot. He was probably the most competitive person I ever played against as a leader and as a player. So I would say Panna for me was probably the biggest competitor I had.
One question, John. I want to ask this question because of the use of Afrikaans on the field against international teams. As we know in rugby, we recently had a controversy at the World Cup with Bongi and Bonambi. Did you ever get in hot water using Afrikaans? Did you ever say things like, "Leg down op Ricky se wegkant"?
Languages is not my strength. So Afrikaans is not a subject that I'm very good at. So my teammates actually spend a lot of time laughing at my Afrikaans on the field. So we always tried to talk Afrikaans, but like Hashim and I batting together, it wasn't very good. So we often
It doesn't come naturally.
We often used to say something and then end up laughing at each other, and just very bad.
Well, there you go. That's it. Over to Betty's Bets, and hope you enjoyed the show. In the words of King Callis, we hope it blew your hair back.
Hi guys, I'm Amy Fuzel, sports fanatic and a lady who loves a bet. There's been some incredible moments on and off the pitch this season, but I'm here to tell you about the sporting bets you can profit on with these tips. Those are my best bets for the week. Thank you for watching Banter Boys today, and we'll tune in for the next episode. See you soon.